Happy day, everybody. My name is Daniel Brafman. I am a holistic health and performance coach and an independent LifeVantage distributor. I've been sharing with my team on a weekly basis, chapter by chapter, John Maxwell's The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And this past week we covered chapter 6, which is the law of the environment. Growth thrives in conducive surroundings. This one is in particular very special to me, especially because right now, I just finished watching a week-long series of webinars on genomics, which is very much, what our company is. Our company is both a social genomic and a nutrigenomic company. Genomics is the science of whatever positively influences genetic expression towards healthful life extension. That as a biohacker is something that I've been studying for a very long time. And, as part of this company, I've learned and grown in so many ways, and including, always being aware and present with the fact that the people in the company have had a lot to do with my growth. The people that I gravitate toward, the people that I'm learning from. And, this is really what John Maxwell is speaking to in this chapter in particular. The people who you surround yourself with and the people who you grew up with. You don't need to continue to hold on to the conditioning that you were given by those loving people who wanted to make sure that you had enough information to survive on your own. At the beginning of the chapter, John Maxwell has a quote. It says, "The first step towards success is taken when you refuse to be captive to the environment you first find yourself in." That's the conditioning that we were raised with. That's institutional conditioning. That's family conditioning. That's, what Louise Hay might refer to as, being raised by victims of victims of victims. And, these are all people who have not lived their life in an examined manner, who are just basically parroting back the lessons learned through, what was modeled for them. No fault on theirs. Very few people ever really break through and realize that what is going on inside their head was planted there by well-meaning people, but perhaps it didn't serve them very well. And this is not something new. This is something that is, been in all sorts of traditions and scriptures and etc. as the lessons that we should have been learning over millennia. 2,500 years ago, Lao Tzu and the Tao Te Ching was talking exactly about this. There's a lifeful living and a deathful living, and only a very small percentage of people ever transcend their conditioning and actually create a life for themselves and create, by doing so, a world around themselves, because we are the gardener and we are the garden. There's a point at which in everybody's life we really do need to know where we are, we need to know where we want to go, and we need to know what needs to change. And often what we need to do is a big change. It's a revolutionary change. Just as our company has seized on the revolutionary new information in the medical space, about that we are in control of our genetic expression, that we're not victims of what we were given, that's also true in our behaviors. It's also true in our environment. And to that, I wrote, if changing yourself is to be total, write a constitution first. That way you're not kind of drifting aimlessly. This is the foundation of what's to come. Give it an adaptive spirit. Ongoing change is a regular practice of adjusting to your environment as it changes. This is living lifefully, living without an organic farmer's outlook, letting what happens be as if you're separate and not responsible for your impact is deathful living. This is, again, not being responsible for what you're doing, but also not being responsible for who you keep around you, because we're not separate. We're just not. We like to believe so, but we're in each other's energy fields. We're also just influencing each other. We're We're born to copy what other people are doing. This is how we learn. We didn't learn from our parents because they told us something. We learned from our parents because they modeled something. Our teachers modeled something. Our rabbis and preachers modeled something. It wasn't just what they were saying from the pulpit that mattered. It was, we looked at them, and we looked at them with a higher level of attention because, we do hold them in higher regard. They're people who are willing to stand in front of people and say, this is how things should be. And so, because we're born imitators, we're watching them more than we're listening to them. Usually the listening is to our own inner chatter, which, is just the repetition of the ideas that were planted in you long before you ever had the thought. Just to move on from that, because there's no point in kind of beating this to death, but, when I sit in a meeting and I had the opportunity recently to bump into a challenge for myself. Somebody was looking at the compensation plan, and they were looking at the percentages of people who are at the top of the company. And they're looking all the way to the bottom left corner of the chart, and they're saying, oh, well, there's only 0.01% of the people ever make it to the top of the company. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really kind of bugging me. Is this guy, why is he looking to, create impossibility walls? Why is he looking to actually show that it's not very likely that anybody is going to be able to do that, instead of looking at it and going, wow, out of 70,000 people, that means at least 7 people have made it to the top of the company. There's a fantastic opportunity in knowing that information. Everybody starts in the same place. That 0.01% is a crap load of people who are pro 1s, who are pro 3s, who are pro 5s. Every one of those people who makes it to pro 10 or now pro 11 was exactly who they are now, and they were always that 0.01%. So, looking at the chart and seeing that there's somebody in the company, there's in fact more than 7 people in the company that you can tap into, that you can pick up the phone and actually reach out to and say, I want your information. I'd like to know how you did what you did so that I can see what resonates for me, and I can repeat that, and I can do that, and I will be, and I am, that 0.01% regardless of what my rank is. Because I promise you, no pro 10 in this company ever didn't think like a pro 10. Not from day one. And the only difference between a pro 10 and a pro 3 that happens to be that 0.01% is the amount of time that they put into running this company. So this is really a fantastic opportunity for us to look at, who do we keep around us? What are we doing with all of this information? And, and what's our inner environment like too? That inner chatter that we need to kind of overcome, like, that I pointed out earlier on in this. We just need to move on. Again, John Maxwell said, if you're always at the head of the class, you're in the wrong class. One of the things that I coach as a performance coach is triathlon. And in fact, I myself, have had some more than marginal success as a triathlete. When I stopped racing at 51, I was ranked 17th in the country in my age group. So I know what it's like to coach people. I know what it's like to put the work into being nearly the best, if not the best, at anything. And I guarantee you that that's well within that 0.01%. But one of the things I also know as a coach is that, the easiest way to get to the front is see who's in the front, see who's between you and the people in the front, and pick somebody who is a little bit better than you, a little bit faster than you. The only way that if you were going to go to a swim practice and keep up with them is to draft them. They're taking away some of that resistance, and you're learning how to go at their speed. This is really, really relevant. These are the people that you want to surround yourself with. You don't want to always be with somebody who's just going to be in awe of you because you're pulling them along. I mean, that's beautiful. That's exactly what you want to do, and that is part of growing the company. You need people to be, to be following you and doing what you do, because that's what network marketing is. It's making sure that you're also removing some of the resistance toward getting better and better and better. But every step of the way, when you get to be the person who you end up touching their feet because they're actually no longer a challenge for you to stay with, find the next faster person and just go from person to person to person until you're so good at what you do that you have to create an environment that gets rid of the resistance for you. If you look at it at a Tour de France, champion, there aren't very many people in the world that they can go out to and draft on in practice that's going to challenge them. So what do? They hire somebody to get on a motor scooter. They tell them how fast they want to learn how to go, and they get behind them and let them take care of the resistance until they can do it on their own, and they just keep upping their game. This is how it works. Spend the time with the people who are going to actually model what you need to know to grow. And at that, I'm going to keep this very brief. I'm going to keep it very short. I'm super happy that that anybody is here on listening to this. Peace and love to everybody. Thank you very much for your time.